All right, ladies and gentlemen, Colonel we're gathered for history today. My name is John Daly. I've taught here a long time. I know 64 people. I'm just the chair thing in Houston in case you don't know them, and this is kind of an order of me knowing them. Mark gets worried. I met Mark when I started grad school. This guy comes up to me, we talk for 2 minutes, he says, "Peter, hi." This meeting. All right, and I thought, went to his house the next night. Okay, found what a bookstore that day, and I've known him since for a long time. I was just finishing I finished my dissertation with Mark as my advisor, interesting enough, and I got a job opportunity interview over here. And Mark at that point was dating, no, you were more than that, was somebody who graduated with her PhD from UT. And you said, you gotta go there, there's really good looking women there. All right? Now when I got here, I believe to this day, I was just 24 years old, and I was this registration, you know, 80 much opportunity. I interviewed 3 or 4 places, said send me your receipts, send me receipts. I got to UT and they gave me an honorarium instead. I never had that experience before. It turned out I was the first serious hire with that competition. Before that was ordeal, people called somebody and Bob Jeffrey used to say, somebody, who's a good faculty member at your place? We'll take them. I was the first search committee ever done at UT, and Margaret was going to pay me. So I remember,
probably late.
But it was $1,000.
John.
Wow. It was a ridiculous amount of money. My receipts were like 200. She said, don't worry, all right? So Margaret became, anyways, my best friend at UT. She got me paid. Oh, Mike, even me? I can't believe it. All right. Third person is Barry Brummett. Susan, you came before Barry, I think, right? Yeah, Susan was across the hall from me for years, and people would regularly claim that we were the 2 loudest people in the department. And there were people who would close the doors when they saw us both walk into the building. Susan also impressed me as an incredible entrepreneur, because I do have a lot of books in my office, but a lot more years ago. And when we got rid of a bunch, she said, don't throw them in the hallway, we'll sell them half-price books. I did. And you took them down and got maybe 4 cents a book, but that went to the graduate program. Susan also wrote a book about how to be a grad student in this department. It's the only book on that. And my favorite memory is a personal one. Susan was the only graduate person who actually held graduate parties at her house. Okay, which my son, when he was 4, loved to sit around with the graduate students and play poker. It was kind of fun to do. Best thing about Susan always, I don't know if this is still true or not. What? She used to have great tickets to the basketball games. Do you still have them, or? I was going to talk to you afterwards. Okay, for that one. And finally, Barry Brummett. Barry Brummett was the chair for 19 years here, okay? He's actually only 43 years old when you look at him. Barry was an amazing chair. A good friend of mine who's administrator at UT said to me one day, there is a guy in your department who has a gun in his office. Like, yeah, actually there is one. And he has alcohol too. And don't tell me this, don't tell me this. And my favorite story about Barry is, you know, he likes guns, he likes hunting. He put a deer feeder in front of his house, basically. He can sit on his porch while these poor deer come up. He just shoots them while they're eating dinner, all right? So never be a victim. But when he arrived here, my favorite thought was he came in a motorcycle. First of all, he was a biker guy, all right? Can you believe that? And now look at Barry today, okay? Changed his life. So that's the panel. I'm going to let them talk, okay? They've all been a major part of my life and a major part of the department for many, many years. And they've told me everything's been recorded, so only clean stories, Mark. All right. So let's start off. Please, somebody start.
Yeah, the reason I want to start is because when you get to be 86, you don't always remember everything, and sometimes when you do remember it, it's wrong. And so we have Margaret here who can correct me. And forgetting things when you're a chair actually can be something good rather than something bad. I was a chair from 89, I think, to 96, and then again from 2000 to 2001. The last time I was sort of a caretaker while we were searching for a chair, and so not much happened except the 100th anniversary of the department, which we did hardly anything for. I think I made T-shirts for everybody, although that could be wrong too. There were several people paying homage to that ego-inflated portrait of our first chair that you see in the main office. So the real action was during the first tenure, and most of that action was getting rid of people. And I was responsible for that. There's a story that begins before I get to the deleting people. It's called the case of the $108,000. You remember it, Margaret? Yeah. Well, what happened was Kathleen Jameson was the chair, and we were having trouble paying for all of the sections of the basic course. And she couldn't get the upper administration to provide the funds for these extra courses, which many of which were required, and students were naturally upset when Kathleen decided to play hardball and just not offer any more sections after we ran out of money. And so that created a shitstorm. And I was the new chair after Kathleen left and went to the University of Pennsylvania. But I hadn't had a chance to look around very much. I didn't know much history of what was going on. And I was walking out on the plaza, and Dean Jeffrey saw me. And he said, "Hey, Mark, let's go to a meeting. I'm going to a meeting over in the tower. You want to come along?" Sure, yeah. I mean, I thought this was a chance for, a new chair to see how the upper administration solves problems and things of this nature. So I walk into this meeting, long table. Every friggin' officer at the university is sitting around this table. The president is chairing the meeting. There was some chit-chat among the officers, and then the President Cunningham stands up and says, "Okay, we've got the problem of this basic course. Bob," Dean Jeffrey, "how are we going to solve this?" Jeffrey, very much like Michael Scott on The Office, says, "Well, I think Mark would be better able to answer that question." So Jeffrey turns to me, and if I gave a truthful answer, it would be, "Hell if I know." But I knew that was not a response that I should give. So I had this vague memory of a document in either Margaret's office or in Kathleen's office. And I saw the bottom line was $108,000. And I thought to myself, hey, that's a lot of money. Maybe that'll work. So I said very proudly, $108,000. President paused, looked around at his cadre. Nobody offered any complaints. He looked at me and he says, "Okay, we can do that. We're gonna solve this problem." So Jeffrey didn't know whether to be proud of me or proud of himself, for dumping the problem on me. Well, it turned out that not too long after that, I got back to the department and found out that the $108,000 was simply funding what we already had. It didn't fund any new sections, so it didn't solve the problem. So every year after that, we were requesting additional money. And every year after that, Steve Monty in the provost's office would say to us, yeah, but what happened to that $108,000? So the basic course was a major issue during those years, but the main thing had to do with creating a department. And there are a couple of things, and this leads to the question of people being deleted. I guess they weren't deleted, they were just reassigned. The speech pathology has always been, from almost the very beginning of speech departments, a part of the department. But they are always, have always been doing something very different from what the rest of the department does. And so Gene Powers and I had a lot of talk about what it was going to take to get calm disorders, which was the term speech pathology now had, and now I understand it's changed again, what it would take in order to form a separate department. And so a line became available. And whenever a line becomes available in a department, every division within the department acts like a vulture. And they go after that as fast as they can. And they don't want any other area to have that line. And so it wasn't easy, because we found out that calm disorders needed one more line, one more position. And they were going to be able to form a separate department. And eventually, the department acquiesced, and we provided that line to calm disorders, and they went on their merry way and have established a tremendous department. The other element of the department that happened during that time had to do with performance studies, or, when I was a graduate student, oral interpretation of literature. And they also were a part of speech departments for a long time. And at one point in this department's history was a very powerful part of the department. But when Paul Gray retired, we then had only 2 faculty members in that area left. And I felt, after talking to a lot of people in the department, that people were not likely to vote to have this retirees line be replaced in performance studies. So I talked to one of the members of the performance studies area, Joni Jones, who I knew had done work in theater. And so I talked to her. I said, how would you feel about being a member of the theater department? And to my surprise, she said, great. And so I said, whoa, okay. So I immediately traipsed over to theater and talked to the chair over there. And she said, what's the hidden thing here? What do I have to give you? I said, nothing. You have to take rather than give. And so then it became even more desirable for her when she found out that there were 2 faculty members instead of just 1 that would be transferred to theater. Lynn Miller, the other faculty member, wasn't all that happy about going to theater, but she didn't want to be the lone person in our department in that area either. Well, it seemed to be going smoothly, except that Lynn and Joni, who were going to theater, didn't inform their graduate students about what was happening. And so one morning I came into the office, and every floor from the basement to the 7th floor were papered with pink protest flyers, essentially saying, you know, I was the devil. And I got to my office, and the dean called me, Dean Wartella called me and said, Mark, I don't know what this is all about, but I'm sure you can handle it. Click. I think it's something about being a dean, you know, that you learn how to do these things. And so eventually, you know, they were concerned about where their degree is going to be, the credits that they were going to get, would the courses be offered. All of these things had to be worked out, and eventually they were worked out. And the last thing was not a deletion of people, but it was a reorganization, and that was the department decided now that performance studies was gone and now that CSD was gone, what does our department look like? And generally, it worked out that the different divisions within the department seemed to work out. There was one area that had a little bit of a problem because the 2 faculty members in that area didn't see eye to eye on everything. So they were essentially funneled off to 2 different areas. But other than that, everything seemed to run smoothly, and that's pretty much what happened during my era as chair. So if anything was wrong, which probably much of it, Margaret will correct me on that.
I don't know. I've never spoken in one of these before, but I'll expand on the $108,000. Mark goes to this meeting and finds out that we only have really money, the $108,000 covers is the money we already have. And people in upper administration never knew what was going on with money. And so then he had to ask for more money. And the university, this was probably for the spring semester, and probably a week before classes began, they gave us this very large amount of money to add like 18 sections or something. Well, there was a problem with faculty. And I won't say that Mark went into the alleys of Austin to find faculty members, but it was sometime not that unlike it. We had a Jewish rabbi, we had an alcoholic, we had a real estate woman. I mean, it was just the biggest mishmash of people ever. And but then somewhere I still have at home a letter of enraged Mark wrote to Steve Monty explaining the $108,000, and it included quite a few expletives, and I still have it somewhere. I'll have to find it one of these days. Archives. Anyway, I came to the department in I came to the college in 1969. I had just gotten married. I was like 24, and a friend of mine worked in the college. I came in to help out for a few days and stayed till 2009. And in 1971, I moved from the college to the department when Robert Jeffrey was chair. When I left the college, and many of you will see how significant this is, it talks about how old I am. There were 5 administrative people in the College of Communication staff. There was a dean. There was the woman who didn't even have a title who did all the financial stuff. There was 1 secretary and 2 student advisors. Now, if you think about that and compare that to the administration of the College of Communication today, you will see the difference of it. I was still there for, I think, maybe a month of DeWitt Reddick, and he was a lovely man. Anytime he would go get a coffee or get Coke, he would ask us, he would come in and ask all the staff if they wanted a Coke. But then in the department from 71 until I left, I think I worked had like 7 chairs, or a couple of acting chairs, Marcus acting chair plus 2 other acting chairs, I think. And I was extremely lucky that in all of that time, there wasn't anybody in the chair position that I didn't both personally like and, more importantly, really respect. And I still tell everybody I know that my great blessing in life was working in a position, in a job for that many years in which I loved the department. And that does not say I love the university or even that I love the college at times, because the college didn't always want to share their largesse with the departments. They just kept redoing the dean's office and various things. But anyway, we all bumbled through, and it was very different then. The university was very different. So many of the staff at the university had been students at the University of Texas and stayed on to become staff members. And here's another example of the old university. There was a woman in the Office of Accounting named Mary Guyon who had started out, I think she'd graduated from high school, and she started out as an accounting clerk 1. And she eventually became the budget director for the whole University of Texas system. And pigs would fly before anything like that would ever happen again. Now, the university has become very professional in all of its hiring. And I think the department still has much of its same niceness, friendliness that it had all those other years. Mark once said, and this is probably a bastardized version of it, that people who go into engineering or architecture or whatever, medicine, are basically interested in building something, curing something, creating something. But in communication, the interest was on people. And I think that has really lasted through the years, and I think it has served us well. And I'll give it to Susan.
I'm not going to tell stories like Mark did. I'm going to tell you about me. So
You've got a lot of stories.
That's why I can't tell them, yeah. No, I think it's really interesting that I graduated from high school in 1969. Yes, I am that old. And I came to the University of Texas, and I was going to be a communication major. And I was an RTF major. And I chickened out because I didn't have anybody who could tell me what I could do with this thing. And I think having been an undergraduate academic advisor, yes, they cost money. But I can tell you that it's worth it to the students. Yeah, because I had faculty advisors, and there's nothing wrong with faculty advisors. They're wonderful people. They are not advisors. And they couldn't answer the kinds of questions that I was asking. And my hat's off to them for having that extra thing, but they're not professional advisors. So anyway, I didn't consider the speech department at that time because I didn't want to make speeches. It was not the thing. I was a shy child then, and I didn't want to do that. And honestly, I didn't look at any of the coursework. I just read speech department. I went, no, not doing it. I changed majors to business and then finally to medical technology because I like science. And so I ended up becoming a medical technologist, and I did that for a bunch of years, had some kids, went to work in the biochemistry department, and was bored to tears. I just thought I was going to die. And then back in those days, you could take courses as a staff member. And I discovered nonverbal communication. And the world went, la, because I had discovered that there was a bunch of people who were interested in researching the thing I like to do the most, which is talk. And I was just, oh my gosh, so excited. So I took Mark Ness, nonverbal communication. Then I took Robert Hopper's male-female communication. And this is, okay, I don't know whether you believe in God or fate or serendipity or what, but it entered into my life here because I took his male-female communication course and I made a B. And I went, ain't no possible way I made a B in that class. So back in those days, you had to write a formal letter and protest your grade and turn it in. And so I did. And I, ranked, said, these are the grades I made. This is what it should have been, blah, blah, blah. So I turned it in. And a couple of days later, he calls me on the phone. Robert Hopper calls me on the phone. And he said, not only did you not make a B, but you made the highest A in the class. And I went, well, thank you very much. And then he said, would you be interested in doing an independent study with me this summer? And I went, yes, yes, I would. So I honestly think that's why I got into grad school, was because Robert said, yeah, she can do the work. And I wasn't even asking for a job. I just wanted to go to grad school. So I applied, I got admitted, it was wonderful. And so the second serendipity thing that happened was I did my master's with Robert. I did my PhD with Madeline. Thank you, darling. And I was turning in my last chapters, and I ran into Pat Witherspoon at the elevator. And she says, hey, what are you doing? And I went, well, I'm turning in the last chapters of my dissertation, looking for a job. She said, would you be interested in the undergraduate academic advisor job? And I went, why, yes. So I didn't have to apply for jobs or anything. We did have to finagle some things because I don't think Dean Rocha really wanted me. And that was okay for me. Didn't really want him either. So I was in the department from 1991 to, 2000, and whenever it was, I graduated. And I made notes because I wasn't going to remember. Now I can't find it. But anyway, to 1998, and got the MA, and I got the PhD because I didn't know what to do with the MA. Honest to goodness, that was the reason. And then I got the undergraduate academic advisor job, and then I got the graduate coordinator job, which that was my favorite job, absolutely favorite job, except admissions. Admissions was no fun. I suspect most faculty would semi-agree. Fellowships was no fun either. So I started the Susan Corbin Excellence Fund when I left. And it has just now, in the last couple of years, gotten to $25,000. So there's money coming in to the department to fund, thank you, to fund graduate travel and graduate research monies. Because I used to have grad students come into my office and say, I just need $100 to make copies. And I'm going, I got nothing. And it broke my heart. And so when I left, I said, we're going to do this. And so we have. So that's my story. Thank you.
I just want to add one thing. During the search for a new chair, which ultimately was Barry, in addition to all of his other redeeming qualities, which would have made him our chair anyway, he had somewhat of an advantage because the person who interviewed for the job just prior to Barry came in with the idea that we were doing everything wrong about the basic course. We needed to throw out everything we're doing, start over. He had all these recommendations, and everybody was just sitting there with their eyes rolling around their head, wondering how long this guy was going to last. And so ultimately, Barry took the job, and as John has already said, we are very, very happy about it, and he's a terrific chair.
Thank you. So first I want to thank all the organizers and planners of this event. I think it's great. Mark doesn't mention that the guy who came in second went off to Oklahoma and died. He did, so I'm glad that was not my fate. I think we have been and are a great department. I think if not, we wouldn't have lasted 125 years. And I think I was a pretty good department chair. If not, I would not have lasted 19 years. And so I want to try to hit on some of the reasons why these excellences. And I'm doing that by keying it to 3 different song lyrics. I will not sing them, I will recite them. You'll be glad to hear that. But the first is what I used to tell everyone was my mantra, and would repeat it ad nauseum and share it with others who I thought needed to hear it. But here is the mantra, and it's from a song by Gordon Lightfoot. Be calm in the face of all common disgraces and know what they're doing it for. Okay, and I thought that was especially important for a chair, because chairs are very oddly positioned. You're positioned between heaven and hell, or between the administration and faculty, and hardly anyone else is like that. And because you're going to get it from both above and below, chairs often are subjected to common disgraces. People are going to tell you they don't like your decisions, that they don't like you, and so on and so forth. And I think that's a peculiar issue for chairs. Dean Hart once told me, if I understood him correctly, that no one ever insulted him when he was dean. Not that he knew of, anyway. But I mean, who would? Who'd be stupid enough to go in and insult a dean? But a chair, oh my, yes. And I think it also speaks to what I've always taken to be an important principle, which is that when faced with a conflict, you can either treat that conflict as a problem to be solved or a battle to be won. And I think it's so much better if you treat your conflicts and your issues and your troubles as problems to be solved rather than battles to be won, and it creates a healthier atmosphere. So that's the first thing I want to share with you. That excuse me, that mantra. I take the second. Song lyric from that old musical Jesus Christ Superstar, and his disciples they're dancing around and they're singing and power and glory. They're singing power and glory because they expect him to lead them into battle immediately and overturn the Romans and so forth. And he breaks in. Essentially says, listen, he says, neither you, Simon, nor the 50,000, nor the Romans, nor the Jews, nor Judas, nor the 12, nor the priests, nor the scribes, nor doomed Jerusalem itself understand what power is, understand what glory is, understand it all. And I think that speaks to what I take to be the peculiarity of people who get into the academy as a source of power. In the first place, you're not going to get power in the academy. And if you do, it will be a very odd sort of power, I think, a very strange kind of power. It's not real. And I think that one reason that we've done so well is I think CMS has had a relative absence of power grabbers. I mean, the wisdom used to be figure out who really, really, really wants to be a chair and don't let them near the job, okay, which I think is true, but I think in CMS we have not had that many people who just really, really, really wanted to be chair and wanted to dictate and that kind of thing. Every time I was reviewed for renewal, the committee would ask me, now, Professor Brummett, what is your vision for the department? And I would say, I have no vision whatsoever. To have a vision, you have to have money, and I have no control over money. And the department has no control over money, so there's no vision here. So I'm not attempting to get at power. And I'm going to close with that fine old movie about grinding with the theme song, working 9 to 5. What a way to make a living. Barely getting by, it's all taking and no giving. Excuse me, they just use your mind and they never give you credit. It's enough to drive you crazy if you let it. And I know that our faculty, staff, and students have all worked very hard. But I think that, and I know that work-life balance is always an issue. I will not claim that this is heaven on earth for work-life balance, but I think we have been able to achieve something a lot better than you might find in other departments, in other units. We've probably all heard of some departments in which the senior faculty members would show up on the weekend to make sure all the assistant professors were in the office working away on their research. Can you imagine? That certainly would not have happened in CMS. I think what we've done is hire good people, tell them what the expectations are. If they don't meet the expectations, and every year we write them a letter and saying, look, you got to do this thing a little bit differently. But I don't think we hovered. I don't think we micromanaged. Some of you will probably correct me afterwards and you think, oh, yes, we did. But I think that we did not. And I think as much as possible in this business, I think most people who were going to have a personal life at least had a shot at getting that. So there you have it. I could be delusional, but I think these are some principles who made us who we are.
I'd like to share a little story. Because, one, I think it was something very well done.
Microphone, David.
One, this story, I think, celebrates something very well done, but also there's a funny part to it. I took Mark Knapp's male-female communication class, and one day, or it might have been named something else, but I think that was it. One day he brought in his wife and they did a dual lecture on dual career marriages. And in a class that was probably 70% female, they felt like they had somebody who got it, a champion. And it was a fantastic lecture. And at one point, one female asked a question. She kind of was having trouble phrasing it, and it was addressed to your wife. And she's like, what's it like being married to this nonverbal communication expert and this and that? And she was kind of dancing around the question. And your wife said, you can stop right there. When we're having an argument and he starts to analyze it while we're having the argument, it doesn't help.
There wasn't much that did help.
Other questions, thoughts, memories, stories? Yeah.
Questions for the recording. Oh, okay. I'm just interested, and this will be from Margaret, I'm just interested in what it was like. This, the Brutalist building across the street, I say it's the ugliest set of buildings on campus, although petrol engineering may take the cake on that, I don't know. What was it like when the department moved from, I guess it was the Gabara building to the new building? Do you remember that era, and what went down?
Right. Okay. That was, what year? Does anybody know the year?
74.
74. Okay. I had been a student in 1966 when Charles Whitman shot people. And so when I walked into what was going to be the chair's office, the first thing I could see was the tower and a perfect line of aiming. But we had outgrown the college totally before we moved in. There was such a surge in growth from the time the building was planned to the time we moved in that we were crowded from the moment we moved in. And the departments were very, very, very protective of their own spaces. And the graduate students in this period, we would have we had little 6 offices we called the Cave, and we had 4 students, occasionally 5 in each one. Some of them smoked, some of them didn't. It didn't count in those days. The faculty smoked in their office. I smoked. So it was a very different place. But one of the things that has changed and was very, very nice, it was before people were around all the time. There was everybody had office hours. People did not have cell phones. People did not have email. So for students to interact with faculty, they had to be up there a lot. But they were very funny. I mean, it was just such a delightful, funny place to work. And they were all so interesting. And our graduate students also got to know the faculty probably better than they do now, because the faculty was there so much more than they are. And it was just a lovely place. I had children, I would bring them up to the office. Later, Jennifer did. When I first had my first baby, Robert Jeffrey would pick me up and drive me to the office with the baby in the bassinet. I mean, so it was a very informal, very friendly, warm place, and it always has been, and people looked out for each other, and I think that has been one of its strong, but it's sad to me now that nobody's around, because it used to be so nice. So many stories. And we had a few really crazy staff members, of course, over time. And we had one faculty member who, all the faculty had mailboxes that opened on the hallway. None of them knew their combinations. And so they would come in through the departmental office to go to their mailbox. We had a staff member who, for some reason, would go to lunch at 12 and lock that door so nobody could get to their mail. And that was like one of the really big problems. I mean, but it was such a friendly, lovely place. And the people were smart, the people were funny, the people were humane, and I just feel so lucky to have been part of that life.
I want to second that. I worked under 3 different chairs, so Mark and Pat and Barry, and nobody, they let me do my job. And I would slide a paper in front of Barry, and he'd say, "What's this for?" And he'd just be signing it while he's asking it, because he didn't really even look at it. I could have robbed the place blind. No, I didn't have any access to the money. But it's just like he said it. We didn't micromanage people, and it made it a delight to work here.
Thank you all. Thank you, everyone, for doing this. Is there anything, looking back, that you wish you had done differently? Is there like a moment where you're thinking, I could have gone the other way?
A lot of things that don't have anything to do with my being chair. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think so. I've done something differently. I guess maybe I could have strangled Jeffrey, something like that. But other than that, no.
I think I think I would have stopped letting John Daly intimidate me about application time, because he wanted the applications done by this date, and that was next to impossible. But I sweated it every year. I got it done, though, yeah. Do you have any regrets, Barry?
Well, yeah, I wish I'd been more careful, because is Jennifer here? No, she'll back this up. We had we thought a pretty good staff member who went home one weekend and just simply went crazy. Filed complaints and grievances, literally federal, state, and local, against the entire staff, and was able to cite times when I just hadn't been careful. I'd talk about this or talk about that, or there'd be something where some problem arose, and I'd say, "Oh, fix it this way," and it turns out this way was probably illegal, but it fixed the problem, maybe it would have been less fun if I'd been more careful. I don't know, but so halfway through all, and then he went home one weekend and withdrew all the charges. So, but I think that's the main thing. Just wishing I had watched my step in some ways a little more carefully.
Hello. Yes. Okay. Hi. My name is Natalie, and I graduated in 2008. So not long ago, but a long time ago. I ended up becoming a speech language pathologist. And I think what's really cool today is I've heard a lot about the close relationship that I didn't even know existed between CommD and communication studies. And I drove up from Houston this morning because I felt like it was really, really important for me to be here. Dr. Daly, I took your class in spring of 2007. And whenever I give professional development lectures now on autism and neurodiversity, I think about your classes because you would walk up and down the auditorium, and you did that on purpose, and you talked to us about the importance of reaching everybody in the room that you were teaching to and not just standing at the front. So thank you for that. And I also met my very best friend in your class, and she is still my best friend today, so awesome. Dr. Knapp, I took your lying deception class, and my specialty now is working with autistic teenagers and young adults who are thinking about going to college, trying to get them ready for that college experience as a speech language pathologist. And whenever they ask me about my college experience, you're the person I talk about. And I talk about the lecture that you gave us on toothbrushes. You stood at the front of the class and you told us about how disgusting toothbrushes were. And you thought about it. You're like, think about it. Your toothbrush is next to your toilet. It's in a place full of germs. Why on earth would you ever brush your teeth with that toothbrush? It's so disgusting. And so I remember that class, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go back to my dorm and I'm going to throw away my toothbrush because he's so right. I never thought about it. And then the point of your lecture is like, wait, who am I? I'm not a dentist. I'm just this professor guy. I've been lying to you all along. And the whole lesson was about be cautious of those who tell you what to do and think about their background. And that lesson has always stuck with me. And that is the first thing I talk about when it comes to college experiences and the wonderful things you can learn in college. So thank you so much.
That should put in perspective my earlier comments.
Well, my name is Peter Chen. I stand at the last seat. I just want to say something because I just landed yesterday from Taiwan for, I think it's 11 hours. 11 hours and 15 minutes. Okay, I just want to say the first thing, I really glad back to my alma mater. This is my home. Thank you very much, first of all. Thank you. And the second thing is, when I got my PhD from here, concentrating on performance studies, my major advisors were Paul Gray and Lynn Miller. And then so I feel very happy, heard about the gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, the professors there. Because after that teach, my student told me at that time, after I got my PhD in 1992, the first one said, Peter, do we have any course when I serve as the founding chair of the Department of Foreign Languages and Applied Linguistics? The student said, do we have anything like oral interpretation of literature? I said, I did that when I was at UT Austin. Do we have performance of literature? I did that at UT Austin. That's the Department of Civic Communication. Do we have a very strong program in public speech and debate? We have that too. Peter, you are everything. You must be our chairperson. So I want to thank you. And then another student say, do we have nonverbal communication? I said, learn from Mark Knapp, okay? I just want to tell you how much I appreciate why. I translate Mark Knapp's textbook into Chinese and earn a lot of money, so I want to treat Mark very nicely. Thank you very much. Yeah. And then another thing will be from Mark Knapp's teaching, I know that nonverbal communication can go through another perspective. When I have argument with my wife, this happened today, if I use verbal communication, it cannot work. When I use nonverbal communication, I give bows to my wife, that works, okay? So I would say, at this department, I have to say I appreciate a lot my teachers here, and I have to say a lot because I study speech communication. I serve as the founding chair and 2 terms of the chairperson at Department of Foreign Languages and Applied Linguistics at National Taipei University. So I just want to say I appreciate everything here and welcome to Taiwan. Okay, if you have a chance, everybody is invited. I should try to translate more about textbooks. Another thing I learned a lot from John Daly, Professor Daly, from the conversation. And I just want to say, comparatively speaking, if we can learn more, for example, I taught comparative rhetoric. Nobody taught this course before at National Taipei University. Then rhetoric means the art of persuasion, mostly here I would say in the West. But in the East, rhetoric is close to aesthetics. So if you don't say something, that will be fine. But if you want to convince something, I encourage my students to come to UT Austin to study, especially this department. So I just want to say, I'm not trying to give any comments or criticism. I just want to say my deep appreciation with my professors there and my colleagues here. Thank you very much. Thanks.
It's nice to be with everybody. And so the question I have is how the department works to ensure that the people who are graduating today can be exposed to the alumni. Because it's been a long time since I set foot in this building, and I don't live very far from it.
Alumni relations.
There's probably a subject matter.
Yeah, Dr. Scott. I don't work here anymore.
It's not your responsibility.
Come back to the panel at 3:45, and we'll be talking about some of the initiatives and things in the department today. So, yeah.